Hey guys, Mike here. So today, I'm here to talk to you about Godzilla vs. Kong. In this review, I'll be going over a brief summary of the plot, my quick thoughts about the film, and whether or not you guys should go and see it. So I'm going to try and keep this review spoiler-free. However, if you don't know anything about the film and you want to go in completely blind, then it's just come back to this video once you've seen the film. So with that, let's get started, shall we? So Godzilla vs. Kong stars Godzilla as himself and Kong as himself. I mean, normally I go over, like the main cast or anything, but really, no one cares about the humans in these movies. They only care about Godzilla and Kong, so they're the stars. In Godzilla vs. Kong, two of the last remaining titans fight each other for dominance, with humanity caught in the middle. And so we have Godzilla vs. Kong. So guys, I gotta admit, I was really looking forward to this film. In fact, actually, I think this was the movie I was most looking forward to seeing this year. Forget your Eternals, forget your Black Widow, forget your Justice League Snyder Cut. I mean, I'm really looking forward to watching, those movies, and I've also seen the Snyder Cut as well. But this was the one I was like, yes, this is the film I want to see. Now, I knew going into it that it was going to be incredibly stupid. It wasn't going to probably make much sense. The human characters were going to either be useless, annoying, or pointless. But nevertheless, I was just looking forward to seeing two great icons of cinema fight each other in the ultimate fight to the death. So, what did I think of Godzilla vs. Kong? Well, I gotta admit that the story for this film was fine. It made sense. The humans need a way of stopping Godzilla, and they enlist the help, or basically force Kong to help them out by finding Hollow Earth. And when they find this Hollow Earth, they hope to find a way in order to, give them more powerful resources or to stop Godzilla. Pretty basic plot. That's all you really need. And the human characters were fine. They each made their contributions to the story where they could. Though I've got to admit, some of the human characters could have just been cut completely. Like Kyle Chandler's character. I mean, I like Kyle Chandler, but his contribution to the story didn't really amount to much. He spends most of the time just either arguing with his daughter or just talking to people on the phone. And then there's his daughter, Millie Bobby Brown's character, who again was kinda pointless as well. I mean, her role with other characters was more of an investigative one. They didn't necessarily contribute to the overall story, and what little contribution their characters did have was very minute. One could argue a bit clutch, but realistically, if that's what your characters amount to, doing a minute thing such as what they actually did, then you probably could have worked it that you could have just cut them out of the movie. I mean, I understand why Millie Bobby Brown is in this film. It's because she was in the previous one. She's a box office draw. I mean, obviously not to the same heights as some of the, Tom Cruise or Robert Downey Jr. But you know what? If people see it on a movie, then they'll want to see it. Just the nature of hiring big stars. But really, the main draw of this film is to see Godzilla versus Kong. And how were their confrontations? You know what? They were actually really damn good. The effects, CGI, choreography, everything about their fight scenes was incredible. You could see everything that was going on. It was entertaining. You could actually feel that their characters were actually put into the choreography as well. Godzilla was able to utilize a bit more range and use a bit more of his ferocity, whereas Kong was able to use a bit more of his intelligence and agility. Each of them had their own strengths and different things that they could bring to the fight. The one thing I will say though, is that you lose a bit of the actual scale of these monsters with how quickly they're moving. And let's be honest, it didn't bother me that much, but in a more realistic sense, creatures like this would move much slower. However, I think that the filmmakers knew that at this point, people don't care about realism. They just want to see the monsters fight. Because if we're going to be super pedantic, creatures like this just could not exist in the real world. They'd probably be crushed underneath their own weight. They wouldn't be able to eat enough food to sustain themselves. Just there are a multitude of reasons why creatures like this just could not exist now. And I mean, if they did exist, we wouldn't. I mean, if Godzilla or Kong were around, then humanity just wouldn't be. I mean, maybe we might get lucky. Maybe Godzilla might be the savior of humanity in the real world as he is in his own universe. But really, I think if Godzilla existed, he'd just wipe us all out. But as well, I will say that even though what we got from these monsters fighting was awesome, I still just wanted more. I mean, this film does come under 2 hours long, and for it to be, a legitimate movie, it needs to have a plot, obviously. And a lot of the time does go to advancing the plot. But like I said, you could have just cut so much of this story out and just given us more monsters fighting. When the plot is happening, the film's at about a 5 or a 6, but when these monsters duke it out, it's at an 8 or 9, and it can even get to a 10 at some points. But realistically, they gotta balance it out. And for the most part, I would say they did a pretty good job of that. Though, another thing I will say is that, for me, you know, I don't watch movie trailers because they just give way too much away. And I'll say that Godzilla vs. Kong is a prime example of that. I watched the trailer for this film after seeing it, and it just gives so much away. So, I mean, if you haven't seen the trailer for this film, then just don't watch it. I mean, it's a good trailer. I actually, really like the trailer. But I would say just do yourselves a favour, just don't watch the trailer. We've been building to this point for close to 7 years now. From Godzilla to Kong Skull Island, Godzilla King of the Monsters, and now Godzilla vs. Kong. The Monsterverse has just been getting bigger and better as it's been going along. And I will say that if this is the last movie in this Monsterverse, I would be a little bit disappointed. Because it just kind of ends. I mean, I'm not trying to spoil anything for anyone, but it just kind of just ends where it does. It does set up one or two little things throughout the story, but for the most part, this feels... well, it doesn't actually even feel like that. It just feels like it just kind of just ends. And I would really, really want them to carry on this franchise. I mean, I don't know many of the other kaijus that are out there. I knew briefly about King Ghidorah. I knew a little bit about each of the other monsters that they've introduced. But so far as I know, King Ghidorah was the ultimate bad guy that Godzilla could fight. So honestly, I just don't know where they could go from here, but I would really like to see what they would do next, because I'm invested in this Monsterverse and I want to see it continue to grow and expand and give us more interesting monster fights. Now as well, one thing I've heard people kind of complain about, now I normally don't get into these kind of things because they're just an ultimate back and forth with no one being right, but I've heard some people complain about them trying to inject woke politics into this film. And I've heard some people say that you should just keep politics and hidden messages just out of your monster movie. But I think that kind of does a slight disservice to what these monster movies were, and actually still are, because the original Godzilla movie wasn't just about a giant lizard attacking Japan. It had a somewhat hidden message about the dangers of nuclear warfare, and you can still feel that throughout all of the other movies. I've heard that Shin Godzilla has another message attached to it as well, though I don't exactly know what that one is because I haven't actually seen that film. And if I was to try and draw some symbolic message from this movie, I would say that one of the themes of this film is about how mankind's struggle for dominance is ultimately self-destructive. If I was to draw any symbolic meaning from this film, that would be it. Though in a more realistic sense, what I get from this film, it's awesome to see Godzilla and King Kong fight it out. Overall, guys, Godzilla vs. Kong was an amazing film. I mean, it's not going to win any awards for great storytelling. The CGI is definitely really good, but it's nothing really that groundbreaking that'll revolutionize the industry. This is just an enjoyable film, seeing two titans of cinema just going at it and trying to kill each other. It's got an interesting enough story. The lore is expanded a little bit more. It's got enough intrigue to warrant making more movies into this franchise, I believe. But now, as for whether or not you guys should go and see it, I would highly recommend this film. I mean, if you don't like dumb monster movies, seeing them duking it out, having one-dimensional characters, having plot holes galore, then I would say steer clear of this film because it's not really going to be for you. If you want some more substance out of your film, then don't watch it. But if you're willing to watch this movie for what it is, and if you can draw your own symbolic meanings from it, then by all means, watch Godzilla vs. Kong. You won't be disappointed. Okay guys, that's my review of Godzilla vs. Kong. If you've seen it, what did you think about it? And what's your favourite movie in the Monsterverse? Whatever it is, drop it in the comments below. Until next time, I've been Michael. See ya!